Mark.
Mark. I was so delayed.
I know, I was waiting for you so we could say it together.
My name is Julia, or Queen Eggy. I am from Los Angeles County, California. I am a sex worker, so I do online sex work and in-person sex work. I am a university student. That's why I haven't fully invested in sex work, I'd say. It's just because I have other goals. I started because I was 18. I moved to New York City, lived in a dorm, but I didn't have a lot of financial support. It's like, yeah, like, fuck it, I'm gonna take advantage of, like, my sexuality and just own it. And that was, like, the best way for me to do so when I started.
My name is Cara. I'm 24 years old. I am a New York native. I've been a sex worker for about to be 10 years. I started assisting a full-service sex worker, technically. Like, I helped her book her appointments, and, you know, I was, at 14, I don't know what kind of security I thought I was, but security.
14-year-old pimp.
And then I transitioned when I was 17 into stripping. I decided to like weaponize my sexuality and use it in a way to be able to get ahead in life and stay ahead, and I don't regret it.
To start off, where were you at the end of 2019, and how did the pandemic change your relationship with sex work?
So at the end of 2019, I had just completed my first 2 months of sugaring, and I had no idea, no clue what I was doing. I got to see a lot of the city, I got to go to a lot of nice hotels, a lot of nice restaurants, ballets, like just like fun shit in New York City that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford or like have access to. But I also had really traumatizing experiences as an 18-year-old and didn't know what sex work was, or that I was a sex worker even, until I looked back on it. And I was like, shit, this is sex work. And then COVID happened, and I didn't return to sex work again. I feel like for a long time I was like, I want to make an OnlyFans, but I'm too chubby, or like people won't like the way I look. But I was at a point where I was like, fuck it, I want to do it.
You're beautiful. And anybody who says otherwise can go fuck themselves.
Thank
with
you.
a bat with nails on it.
Right. And I was one of the only people telling myself that too. And then because I was so comfortable with that kind of work again, and I had put myself in the mentality to be comfortable with that kind of work through OnlyFans, and I realized people were reaching out to me and wanted to do meetups in real life or whatnot, I was like, maybe I'd be open to doing that again in a more safe, thoughtful way than I did when I was 18. And then that's when I started sugaring again.
Well, I'm glad that you felt comfortable enough to come back into it. I know it's hard, and I commend you for taking the space you needed to get your head right, because a lot of people don't do that. They disassociate and delve further into it, and then you're like, oh, well, at least I got money. I'd rather cry in the back of this Uber than the bus, right? Yeah. I have a home club in Long Island, so I was just, drowning my sorrows, like, in the club and work. And then COVID finally did its thing and, like, got the world shut down. And I was chilling up until the murder of George Floyd.
What do you want? Justice! When do you want it? Hands up! Stop killing black people!
Not only did it propel me into activism, it got me wanting to do more sex work, because then I had a reason to want to put my money towards something other than my bullshit. It was challenging because I felt kind of vapid taking nudes while, there was so much going on. But last summer around June 6th, me and 10 other people ended up forming a team together. And throughout the course of the summer, that team expanded to over 100 people. So I was organizing mainly in the Bronx, but I was always there at the other protests as well, like the other rallies and marches and whatnot as well. And the team that I had behind me, they weren't really all too familiar with sex work. I was the only sex worker on the team. It was dope to see their willingness to come out and learn. Like, they were genuinely, like, willing to learn, and it was cool to educate them. So I was like, okay, sex worker march, and then regular march in the Bronx, and then content, and then going to work, and then coming back, and then like planning. Because for me, like when I plan a route for a march, I'm not just planning it on Google Maps. I'm going to go walk that shit myself to make sure, like, oh, if there's a giant ass like 6-way intersection, we need to have enough bikes to cover this. It was beautiful, and I felt like there was a lot more solidarity than I thought I had. I know that I don't feel as alone anymore. And I didn't mind feeling lonely, but like I'm like, okay, cool, but I don't have to be. Like I'm not in solitary confinement anymore. I'm not in jail anymore. And I think that that's the hardest part for me, because having been formerly incarcerated, I'm just naturally just revert back into my head, because that's like it's a safe and a dangerous place for me. But I realized that I didn't have to. They physically freed me, but I didn't have to imprison myself anymore. I could be around people and actually allow myself to be around people and not just like wall up, you know? So I think it was dope.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you found your niche, either online or in person?
Probably a month after I started my OnlyFans page, this guy reached out to me on Twitter and he said, are you a key holder? Do you know what key holding is? I forget which way he worded it. But basically, I had no idea what key holding was. Do you know what it is?
No, tell me.
Oh, interesting.
I love learning new things. I'm like, oh my gosh, something I don't know. Yes.
So I was like, no, what is that? And he was like, well, it's like chastity. So he has this cage, right? So it goes around his dick, and I get to have the keys, and I'm basically in control of like when he gets unlocked, when he gets to edge, when like I can lock him up until whenever I say he can be released, essentially. And I had not done any dominatrix work like prior to this at all. So this was my first experience doing that. So he would like drive me around, we would like hang out, he would pay for dinner for me, I would like boss him around at dinner, I would like tease him at dinner. It was really fun. There was this one time where he was locked up and I had the keys around my neck at dinner, so he can see them around my neck the whole time while we're eating. I made him order edamame and eat it like he was like eating my pussy, but like yeah.
So when you say cage, okay, I have so many questions. Okay, you know how, because when they get hard, they're different size than when they're like not hard, right?
Yeah, like it's uncomfortable, and sometimes you just like endure the uncomfortableness, and like now it's my way to kind of differentiate myself from like all the other OnlyFans pages you see. People who are specifically looking for a key holder will like reach out to me now, which is really interesting. Even people who aren't paying for key holding services, it's just a very like submissive fan base I've found. And then in real life, it's more like me meeting guys who want to dom me. It's like,
how does that work? So do you do are you more dom online and then submissive in person?
I'm like all over the place everywhere, but I haven't really had the opportunity in person besides that one time to dom someone. But like I feel like I would like to build my skills more.
I kind of like had a crash course in that. A couple years ago, I had a customer that was a transgender woman that came into the club that I worked in. She wanted me to put her toy on, and she kind of like did her thing while I just sat there. That was my first time ever, I guess, pegging someone. So I got into that afterwards. So there were situations where whenever I was in the club after that, and a customer wanted that, they would come and find me. That's what got me like into wanting to do more domination, because like coming into sex work, I didn't want to further perpetuate the angry black woman stereotype. It was different to see how I could take my energy and use it to propel me, or have my own clientele that sought me out specifically for things that people tried to use against me in my everyday life to make me feel bad. And then like obviously once I started like stripping, my thing was pole dancing. Definitely dancing for me, like it was a beautiful thing for me, because there's nothing to be heard or said when you're on a pole spinning like upside down, like you're like, you know, it's the same feeling as when you first jump into a pool and you're underwater. It's just silence, like it's just calm.
On that note, what are some of the ways your relationship with clients differs online from in person?
So now that OnlyFans has gained so much popularity, I feel like it's just opened like this whole new area of the market to people who consume sex work. Guys my age watch porn, right? But it's like now you're an OnlyFans where you can like directly message the porn star. It is kind of an opportunity for sex workers to get their voice out and like be like, hey, I'm a real person. A lot of people and like my OnlyFans subscribers who will like check up on me, reach out if I haven't posted in a while, like, oh, like, are you busy with finals? Like usually like if I haven't posted, it's because like I'll have a lot of exams or I have something else going on. There's always people there who like make you feel like you're a person. So, like, yeah, like you feel, like, recognized.
And check up on you and, like, consistently actually, like, for nothing other than wanting to see how you're doing, ask how you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, at least for me, in my early days of sex work, I had a hard time differentiating friends from clients because I'd meet people in a work setting and I'd be like, damn, like, I really get along with you. Like, we really have actual conversations. And I'd be like, am I a bad person for wanting money from you still? Or they'd be like, damn, I think I like you too much to pay you. And I'm like, wait. That's not, And so I think that was like one of the biggest things for me that made me like be a little bit more distant with my clientele because I was actually like having a hard time. I used to judge people, and then there were a couple people that I met that were like the polar opposites of what I thought, and I was like, damn, we're all human, despite the roles we play in these settings. In Oregon, I met a guy that was a former Klan member. He was willing to have the conversation with me without being disrespectful. Like, he's like, you know what I am? Like, he had a whole swastika on his arm. So, like, I went in there with the intent to get him mad and possibly end up fighting this grown-ass man, right? And by the end of it, I had gained a friend and I had changed his whole mentality. And so I think that it's definitely been therapeutic in many ways for me. Just being able to share experiences and step outside of my own shoes. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I do believe that the willingness to understand and humanity and compassion will get us a very long way, 100%. Both in this industry and in the world, period.
Yeah. Have you encountered this willingness to understand when you told people you were a sex worker? Or inversely, how has stigma around sex work impacted your life?
This is like the first major time I'm outing myself as a sex worker right now. So I would tell people I was a sex worker without telling people I was a sex worker because I didn't know myself or didn't want to accept it for myself. And I would get mixed reactions. Some people thought it was really cool. Some people were kind of weird about it. And then even with this documentary, like when I was asked to do it, I wasn't even planning about talking about like my sugaring experiences. I was just planning on talking about OnlyFans because that's all I was comfortable talking about at the time. And then now it's like, why not share my story, right? Why not share my truth? But yeah, even like doing this documentary talking about OnlyFans is like a risk to me, or like was a risk to me. Because like, what if one of my professors finds it, or what if my family finds it? That's why I'd like to openly talk about it, because I'd like people to understand and know more about what I do and the reality of it. I was set up in that like straight A, like I have a single mom, but I got really good grades in high school. She worked really hard. I got a scholarship, like with all of our hard work combined and the scholarship, I was able to fly across the country and go to this really good school. So I guess now it's like my fear of outing myself is connected to my fear of like losing everything that my mom and I worked so hard to maintain and work so hard to get. It's the fear of losing that or disappointing my mom. My mom is very progressive in that sense. Once you know a sex worker or the sex worker is your daughter, I don't know how she would react to that.
I think you should give her a little bit more credit. She did create you, and you're pretty cool, so.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also probably, like, my own fears, too. Like, I'm sure.
That's what stops a lot of people from a lot of things.
Yeah, it is.
I think that for me, bridging it was just, it wasn't a matter of finding an easy way. It was just a matter of me realizing that that was the life that I chose for myself, and anybody who loved me and supported me and knew I wasn't harming anybody would understand that. And it took a long time for me to get to that point because I'm a big empath and I used to be so scared about hurting people's feelings or like disappointing them. Then I was like, wait a fucking minute. How many of y'all can I actually like rely on to take care of me?
I also think there's a huge misconception that there's only one kind of person who is a sex worker and that sex workers do it because they have to do it and they have no other options, which is not always the case at all.
Do you feel like people use the excuse of sex trafficking to try to vilify and dehumanize willing sex workers?
I think it's more of a moral thing for a lot of people, to be honest. I think people see it as like good and evil almost. So it's like there's this kind of work that's okay and there's this kind of work that's not okay. Or there's this kind of work that I would let my daughter do and there's this kind of work that I would not let my daughter do.
Do you know about Testa? It was
vaguely. But you know a lot more about it than I do.
It was a law passed in April of 2018. So it's the Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act and the Fighting Online Sex Trafficking Act.
Right.
And contrary to its actual name, it does the exact opposite. And so what a lot of it did was a lot of online content, like a lot of sites that were there to actually help sex workers got removed. And it ultimately ended up having sex workers that were used to utilizing online platforms to make those connections. It forced them to have to go outside and actually be on the street. And it actually makes the chances of something bad happening that much more. And it's really aggravating that they made these laws about people without actually getting the input of the people that these laws are going to impact.
How has sex work affected your body image, and how do you cope with that?
I mean, I've been sucking in my stomach the whole time, so that don't answer it. Literally, it's definitely challenging. I think in the beginning, I didn't give a fuck at all because, like, the people that like you will find their way to you no matter what you look like. Everybody has a type. When I first started trapping, body image wasn't a thing at all. And then I entered the strip club industry. I was never comparing myself to anybody else, especially once I learned how to pole dance. When I started dancing in different states though, like predominantly white states, that's when the body image shit kicked in. Because it's harder to get hired at white-owned club as a black girl if you're anything other than like fucking a twig, basically. And I'm not that. So, and that's not to shame. I've had club owners tell me that I need to get surgery. Like, it was never my face. It was always like, oh, your stomach is too loose. I like still go through that sometimes, and I mean more often than I'd admit, I guess. It made me upset because I'm like, how can I let people get in my head after everything I've done for myself?
Yeah, I'd rather suck in my stomach because when I was skinnier, I hated myself. My brain was telling myself I hated myself because of the way I looked, even though I was very, very small and like unhealthy to be that small. I don't like the way I used to think. I was so consumed, and like there were times when it was worse and there was times when it was better, but I've been dealing with eating disorders since I was 12, and then I just recovered about a year ago, I'd say. I feel like that consumed so much of my life where I felt like my body wasn't my own. As soon as I kind of started, I think I started gaining weight probably when I started doing sex work, is like when I first started gaining weight. One, I was like really not okay with it at first, so that damaged my mental health along with what the sex work did to my mental health. But I immediately, like that feeling of not controlling my own body, like the food and exercises controlling my body, immediately was placed into like, my body is not my own because I'm selling it, which I don't think that way anymore, of course, but like, that's how I felt. So there was this long period of time where like my eating disorder and sex work kind of went hand in hand because they made me feel the same way about myself. And it was like, shit. Now that I'm like recovered, I feel like the hottest and coolest I've ever been right now in this present moment. So yeah, fuck it. Any body size should feel comfortable presenting themselves sexually or even not sexually, just showing their body is like, absolutely. Anyone should feel totally comfortable doing that. It's just a body.
I think it's important to remember that. I'm very critical of myself, like very, not in the sense of physical, because like, I see myself every day. I'm still very critical. I'm adorable. Fuck that. But like,
yeah, I just remind myself that.
I'm a ray of fucking sunshine.
As soon as I tell myself that, I'm fine.
Exactly. And my first time ever walking into a strip club was the night that I went to audition. I was 17 years old, and at that point I thought I was 20. Obviously, I thought I was a grown-ass woman. And so I walked in, and they're like, "Oh, you know, you don't even have to like audition. Just get dressed." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And you know, since I didn't audition, I didn't know they were fucking topless. And so I'm on stage, my dumb ass. I'm trying to like hide my chest. I'm in a mirror. Like, the people behind me can look in the mirror. Like, and so I'm over here, like, you know, dancing with one hand and, like, holding my titties with the other. But then I was like, you know what? Honestly, like, fuck it, my titties are cute. So, like, I do that with everything. Like, I freak out, and then I'm just like, you know what? Just let go, you know? So I did. I didn't realize how something like that could still affect me. And I think that's something that reaffirmed to me that I was still a little kid, you know?
So to bring it back out, long term, what are some of your goals or ambitions, professionally or personally? And how does sex work fit into that equation?
I really want to graduate college because that would make me really proud.
You will.
And I know I will. And my family really proud. I have no doubt in my mind that I will. But yeah, like ultimately I want to do it for me because I've decided, like, I know I can drop out of college. I know I can, and I've decided that is not what I want to do. Like, I really want to get a degree. I really want to, like, help other sex workers. Yeah, especially, like, in the trans community, I just know how oppressed trans sex workers are and how much they go through. One of the things I'm doing is starting, like, a coalition for sex workers. But I want to make it so it's not just in New York, it's nationwide. And that's in terms of, like, heat maps for, like, dangerous areas, in terms of police activity. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I definitely have planned for myself. And I'm going to use sex work to get me where I want to be. I don't know where the fuck I'd be without sex work. Like, I really could not imagine my life. I have a decent idea of where I'd be, and it's not good. So yeah, at least I live my life knowing that no matter what I do, like, I have the freedom to do what I want.
dancing is a beautiful thing and I love it, but like, I'm just like, I can't wait to see where I go after this, because I don't think that I'd ever give up being a sex worker, even if I'm not a full service one. I think that I'm going to be like 75 with like my thigh-high combat boots, stepping on somebody's balls, and I'm fine with that.
Amazing.
What did you learn from each other today?
I made my first sex worker friend in real life. So that's a big thing for me, for sure. I don't even want to go into what I learned because she just said everything I learned, basically. I'm so blessed to have met such a strong, beautiful woman today. Like, I'm so grateful. Yeah, I really am.
I learned that you can put cages on penises. I ain't know that. I swear I did not know that. I'm literally going to go home and Google the shit out of this.
You should really try it. It's very fun.
I also learned that I still have a lot of learning to do. Coming into this, I had a certain mentality, and then when they added another person, I didn't like how I ain't like that shit at all. Like, I was like, it just reminded me that I need to do better still, and I can't let my activism jade me towards my sex worker family. And thank you for reminding me that I still have some work to do myself.
Yes, same.
And I'm proud of you for all that you've done, and I'm proud of you for taking care of yourself and your body and your mental. You learned a lot quicker than I did. Shit.
I am also very proud of you. I can't believe you've been doing this 10 years.
Oh, I'm so happy to meet you.
I'm so happy to have met you.
They're gonna kill us for these mics getting crushed. We are gonna go smoke a joint now. Please set us free.